We should AI Teddy with your takes.
That would be fun.
That would be hilarious.
Right. Or Teddy's takes with my voice.
Well, either or. I think both work.
Both work.
It is weird. I don't know if I like AI.
You saw that post that he was the most inefficient shooting guard of the last 25 years?
The thing is, like...
It was a cultural reset. We've discussed this.
What he did for the game, I mean, I respect it. But, like, I mean, hey, getting through that East, like, he did a lot. But I don't know. Especially building a team around him, I don't know.
Well, like, if you put Prime AI with Giannis, I think that works.
Yeah.
Because that was the thing back then was, AI can win if you surround him with bums, because he has to shoot 30 times a game. That's the system.
But
defensive players, one high-volume scorer.
Paired him with Melo, and they just, like, here's big AI.
Yeah,
here's 6'7" AI.
He is just big AI. But I think if he did come into the... I don't know why we're talking about this.
It's a funny bit for us, but, like...
Everybody listening is like, what the fuck? If he came into today's NBA, people would tell him, listen... You need to be more efficient. I think he would look more like how Ja Morant is. Ja Morant's not shooting 30 times a game.
No.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Soup Podcast. I am Bo Oliver, joined here today with Aaron, the Nerd Soup Monkey, and we are back to talk about the world of Hollywood. We have so many things to talk about on this podcast. All the news coming out of HBO and the soon-to-be-named Max, formerly known as HBO Max. And we've also got news in the MCU. We have some shows to talk about, some questions to answer. And yeah, you can listen to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts or right here on YouTube, and follow us on social media at Nerd Soup, at Bo Soup, at Nerd Soup Monkey. We were supposed to be joined by Teddy today, but unfortunately he got held up at work. So he's out there keeping the roads running, keeping the trains on time. So we thank him for his service. Do like the little clap that they were doing during COVID time.
I don't even know what he does, to be honest. But I picture, like, Bob the Builder type shit. That's the way he makes it sound.
Like I said, he's out there working hard. We're in the AC'd studio here.
Well, we had to turn the AC off, so we're going to be 45 minutes in. We're going to be in rough shape. Worse than Teddy's ever been.
That is true, right. Yeah, I wonder who's going to be drenched in more sweat. Well, he's me. Actually...
I was getting a haircut yesterday, and I felt, like, bad. I didn't say anything, but, like, obviously he's, like, touching my head, and I'm just sweating bullets, and I felt bad for the guy.
Oh, okay. He didn't have AC in the barbershop?
They had the doors open. It was a nice breeze, but I also walked there, so, like, I was running a little hot to begin with, and it's, like, the first change of temperature, so my body's not used to it, so I was dripping. Haircuts are so awkward, man. I never know what to say.
Well, sometimes you make sports talk, right? That's what they say, the barbershop.
It's not really, I don't think it's a sports barbershop.
Oh, God. You go to what? You go to...
It's like a hipster-y barbershop, yeah.
I was going to say, what's that company that's always advertising? Now I have to look it up. Supercuts.
Oh, Supercuts.
Yeah, you go to a Supercuts.
No, I don't go to
Okay, they put you in the little toy car.
It's a really
back
interesting...
and forth.
It's really interesting, like... The aesthetics of the barbershop, it's really like, I don't know how to describe it, rustic, I would say.
Yeah, you need to find yourself a nice Dominican barbershop. Get into some Jordan, LeBron debates, talk Bad Bunny, Daddy Yankee. Yeah. The good stuff.
We're talking about just like restaurants. It's like, oh, you go to this place? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, you're not in no restaurant talk in the Dominican barbershop. Shout out to the Dominican barbershop. All right, well, where do you want to start? I'm assuming that we're going to start with...
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones news.
Saw that shit in the title. Get the
saw
views.
That shit in the title. The Game of Thrones prequel series, based on A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, George R.R. Martin's novel, will be adapted into... It looks like it's not going to be a miniseries, but maybe just a full series with multiple seasons. And this was news that we got yesterday during Warner Brothers or HBO's shareholder bullshit meeting presentation, and they dropped a bunch of other news like the Harry Potter show and the first look at Park Chan-wook's The Sympathizer. And the name change from HBO Max to Max, which a lot of people thought was maybe the dumbest thing that they've heard in the last 10 years.
Especially the run they've been on with House of the Dragon, well, even going like White Lotus, House of the Dragon, Last of Us, Succession, or even mention Euphoria and that, like absolutely owning Sunday nights TV for the past year, for the past decade, for the past 2 decades. The brand HBO, let's get rid of that.
Well, the brand that matters most is Discovery, it looks like, for them. Because they want to bring in people who don't give a shit about HBO. They want to bring in people who watch Love is Blind and My 3-Day Marriage.
It's good shows.
And My Chipmunk Stepbrother.
Honestly, like...
Which is underrated, My Chipmunk Stepbrother.
One thing before we go into like Night of the Seven Kingdoms, but like it's always weird trying to dissect these moves, especially like I'll liken it to the Oscars making the moves to appeal to a wider audience, but it pisses off their fan base that actually cares about movies and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, those people are still going to watch. So I don't know what the right decision is. I want to like be in these meetings and just to see where they come up with this stuff. I want to see the numbers. the data.
Yeah, we'll talk about that more later, but just going to the Game of Thrones news, for months we've been talking about the Jon Snow sequel series that never got an official order, and we also talked about recently the Aegon series.
Right.
That wasn't part of the announcement, but this is official, and George R.R. Martin will serve as executive producer and writer, and as we mentioned, it will adapt A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, which is the story about Sir Duncan the Tall and Aegon V, who eventually became king of Westeros of the Seven Kingdoms, and their relationship, how they first met, and their travels. It's the classic trope of the hardened older character and the young whippersnapper who helps the older character get in touch with his humanity. So I enjoyed that novel, and a lot of people seem to be really excited about the potential for this series.
But
I'm excited.
Okay.
I'm not, I didn't lose my mind over it. I'm in a wait and see period when it comes to Game of Thrones stuff, because whenever I get a Game of Thrones announcement, I just think, man, they should just get the gang back together and redo season 8. That sour taste, even though I enjoyed House of the Dragon, it's always going to be there. It's like we need to make up for fucking up season 8, not bringing it home with all these other spin-offs, and they're going to be really good. I hope you guys watch, and I will watch, and I think that, yeah, this does have a lot of potential, but it's always going to be there in the back of my mind, the failure that was season 8, because that's why we're all here. That's why we're all going to be tuning in.
Yeah, I think with... Oh, shit, I just realized we still have to talk about Star Wars, too. This is a crazy podcast today.
Yeah, we do.
Fuck.
Yeah, that's why I really wanted Teddy here to just take off some of the air.
I mean, I like the Duncan Egg stories. I think it's actually has a lot of potential, especially when you look at a lot of what people liked from not only just, I'll keep it within Game of Thrones, but it's a type of pairing that throughout multiple franchises and movies and television shows that have worked. It's like a proven formula, like an odd couple just going on an adventure together. But like within Game of Thrones, think like Hound and Arya to an extent, Brienne, Podrick, something like that. And especially just the time period they're in. I mean, especially with the Blackfire rebellions, something that's like never been acknowledged with the main series or basically anything within the HBO Game of Thrones world. So, and that story kind of intertwines with Duncan Egg and things like getting to see Bloodraven and some of the characters that are featured in these short stories. I think it's something that especially fans of Song of Ice and Fire are going to enjoy, but I think it will appeal to general audiences as well. And it's not like, obviously there is politicking involved and some of the stuff we know from the Game of Thrones world, but at the end of the day, it's just if the focus is set on these two characters, I think it's a avenue for trying some different things within this world. I'm not concerned, but I'm interested to see how they're going to space it out, because you could take all 3 short stories and not even fill a season of television, I don't think. So, and in the way it's titled, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, The Hedge Knight, that leads me to believe that they're going to maybe try to adapt The Hedge Knight into a full season of television and go season by season. So then do Sworn Sword next, and then the Mystery Knight, and I think he has 2 more he wants to release, so maybe 5 seasons of television, which there's not enough. I mean, there's enough there, but not within the written material. You're going to have to go outside and pick and choose and develop some of the other things surrounding their main story.
Yeah, maybe a character like Bloodraven becomes a bit more prominent. Maybe we see different sides to the Blackfire Rebellion that we weren't treated to in the written text. And this idea that George R.R. Martin has 2 more novellas to write concerning these 2 characters, that's definitely not going to happen. I saw a report that he was going to give them his notes.
It's so much easier to do with these characters, because they are shorter, smaller stories, smaller in length and smaller in scale. So
yeah, I think people are going to hear that and think, oh no, not again. But it is different.
Yeah, you're not ending the main series. I think it is very different and much more doable. I wouldn't mind movies. I think
a lot of
be
people
cool.
were saying that, maybe do a couple of movies to adapt this story, but I think that companies are starting to realize, studios are starting to realize, there's still a lot of money to be made in theaters if you do it correctly. If you make a good movie, if you market it correctly.
HBO or Max exclusives. They've done that before.
They have, but with a story like this, you definitely want to stretch it out, especially those ratings that House of the Dragon brought in, so they're going to milk this baby. I don't think it's going to be a situation like Peter Jackson adapting The Hobbit, where it's just so obvious this was a story that could only be told in one movie. I think they'll find a smart and strategic way to stretch this story out without it feeling hollow.
Ryan Condal's attached too, which is, a good sign. And looking at...
And Teddy's in the running to play Duncan, right?
He's
Sir
not-
Duncan the Tall.
Not tall enough.
Well, they'll do movie magic. It's like Tom Hardy as Bane, right?
That's true.
They made him look like he was 6'2".
What was I going to say? It's still not even like... It's tall, but like...
What, 6'2"?
Yeah. But like for Tom Hardy, that's fucking gigantic.
That was shocking to learn that man was 5'8" coming out of that movie.
Yeah.
Where were you when you realized?
So it's
Tom
disappointing,
Hardy was
yeah.
5'8"?
What was I saying? What was I saying?
Something about the Teddy playing Sir Duncan. I forgot what you were saying before that. Oh,
Yeah.
Ryan Condal.
Oh, yeah. And when you look at it, like House of the Dragon, if you look at the novellas it's based on, it is like a little, I think a bit stretched out. And we're going to see it further because they're going to say 3 seasons for that. And
Is that the plan? That's the official plan?
I believe so.
Okay.
So like he's done a good job of adding things to a written story already. So that gives me some optimism.
Yeah,
But,
was there any
like,
information about a release date?
No.
Yeah, right. It's
But, like,
probably
you can
too early for that.
You can legit tell this story, the Hedge Knight, in 2 episodes. To get to like 8, that's going to be crazy. But I do hope they set up some shit with like Blackfire Rebellion because that's a great story. And I think by the time this starts, the first one is over. So it would be, I think it's during the second or before the second Blackfire Rebellion. But if you can like introduce the idea and then go back and kind of tell the whole story, I think that'll be a cool idea.
That would be interesting, yeah, if they find different ways. I don't know. It would be tough. I'm going to have to reread that novel and try and figure it out on my own.
It's fun. You should do the graphic novel.
Okay, yeah. I had read because the book just contains the 3 novellas that he did publish, right? Yeah, and I remember you telling me about the graphic novel. So, as I said, I'm excited for this. I'm a big Bloodraven fan. I hated the way that they didn't change it, but they didn't acknowledge his Targaryen ancestry in the main series. So I'll be happy to see him. And I think that's an area where you cast unknowns for Sir Duncan and Egg, but maybe you get a star for Bloodraven. I don't know if he's too big for this, but I feel like Robert Pattinson would be a fun Bloodraven. Give him the scar. I think that would be cool. As I've said many times on this channel, he's one of my all-time favorites. So that's where a lot of my excitement lies. But as you said, these are 2 great characters. The main series was epic, but the characters you can argue the story was character-driven. This one's obviously way smaller, so the characters are even more important, and it's definitely a fun relationship that I enjoyed reading about.
Well, it's funny because like Bloodraven, I don't think would show up until Mystery Night, season 3, if they break it up by novella.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's where
like,
I think you can give us more Bloodraven. Get into what he's up to.
There's theories that he's there, but he's not. Like he's in disguise.
That could be something where you don't have to try and trick the audience.
Yeah.
Maybe fill us in on that, and then it'll be fun for us to know Bloodraven's there while all the other characters are oblivious to it. I think that's a fun way that they can sort of give us more Bloodraven while keeping it a secret within the confines of the story.
Yeah, it's
but
something
filling the audience in.
I wish they did during Game of Thrones with Sir Barristan when he first shows up.
Yeah, that's a way they could have done
why
it.
they did it, but this is a new character we've never seen, so you can introduce him as, you know, if it's confirmed that he is one of these characters that's in disguise, you can just introduce it and have the reveal later on.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a way to do it. Have your cake, eat it too type of situation. And a lot of people are going to hear this news and think, oh, this story has probably got dragons and different creatures and monsters. And, you know, one of the articles I read, it's the new Game of Thrones juggernaut is here. I think that we need to temper expectations here. It doesn't need to be a juggernaut. I think this more appeals to people who like, you know, just true blue dramas.
Yeah, and I think like especially with that first novella, like, or short story, like with the trial by combat and stuff like that, like, or just the interactions with some of these Targaryens. Like Aerion Targaryen is like one of the worst people of all time, but like I can't wait to see him because he's just a ridiculous man of a Targaryen. It's gonna have a lot of, like, obviously it's gonna be familiar in a lot of ways, but I think it can really set itself apart from what we're used to.
Yeah, and Aegon V is a fascinating king, and he had the reputation of being way more friendly towards the common people. He was the king of the people, and it's because of these experiences with Sir Duncan, traveling the world where nobody knows his identity. He runs around with a bald head so nobody can see his silver Targaryen hair. So those parts are fun.
I know it's like such a small thing, but that's why I kind of wish that D&D, and this isn't even a criticism of them for like season 7 and 8, but more as a whole, it's like they were at times, I think, very focused on their time period and their story. You know, they not acknowledging the Blackfires, and I think that was just something where, like, we're not going to include Aegon. We don't really need this. Doesn't really matter to our story in this. Like, we could tell the story without any mention of the Blackfires. Obviously, they acknowledge some of the history, but I think it would have been cool if they dropped some hints throughout the main series, and now we're getting to see some of the Blackfire Rebellion and what's going down here. Maybe Brienne gets the shield, and no, we realize that's Dunk's shield, but that never happened in the show. Little things.
Yeah.
But more aware of, like, oh, there is potential for more world building in live action, so have some seeds planted every now and then. And I guess that's more of a big picture from, like, execs, or if you had, like, what's his name? A Feige overseeing, like, a Game of Thrones department, making sure everything is, and having a bigger plan. But I don't think they ever really considered that until, like, maybe after season 3.
Right. When you're in it, you're never thinking that far ahead. They were fucking thinking of Star Wars. They weren't thinking of Game of Thrones Easter eggs and how can we maybe set some breadcrumbs for future shows and spin-offs. So, I mean, there's so many things.
Small, but
it is small.
Yeah.
But you know what? Those things, not even to set up future spin-offs and to expand your world into a connected universe, but I think it adds to the world, that attention to detail, that appreciation for the source material. I imagine George has a lot of those criticisms that he would like to express to D&D that he never did. He bit his tongue time and time again. Obviously, there are big ones that we've complained about often, but those little ones, they do get on my nerves too, because you see it with certain adaptations, like Dune. You could tell that Denis wanted to cram as much as he could without overwhelming the viewer, but to show that this is for people who read the books too. Mm-hmm. And I'm a fan of the books first, and I'm privileged to make this adaptation. There was no embarrassment of the source material whatsoever. I'm not saying that's what D&D, that they were ever embarrassed by some of the stuff.
Didn't they skip a king too?
Yeah, they skipped the king. They made Aegon Daenerys' grandfather. They skipped his son, because isn't his son one of the Jaharises? Jaharis is Daenerys' grandfather, and Aeg, I think, is her great grandfather in the text.
So, like, no one's gonna remember that, and no one, I don't think, unless, like, on these Song of Ice and Fire forums, I'm sure they'll say, like, oh, doesn't make sense. Now they're doing this era, and that technically doesn't exist within the main Game of Thrones show. But
right. Yeah, his successor, Jaharis II, I think was kept out.
Okay.
Because he is the grandfather of Rhaegar, Viserys, and Daenerys in the text. So yeah, that would change. I mean, it brings, they're advertising it as a century before A Song of Ice and Fire, but I don't know if that adds up anymore.
No.
Unless they go back and...
I think it's 209 this starts. It's like 90 years, give or take a couple.
Okay, right, but I'm saying with the elimination of Jaharis, I don't know if that makes sense, It's a whole generation.
Who cares? You just do it.
Yeah, at this point, it doesn't matter. Or maybe they'll retcon it, right? No, Jaharis... he exists. Then we can all be happy. We could celebrate. Well, is there anything else that you want to say before we move on to some of the other HBO news here?
I mean, we'll obviously get more of a feel when we get more people involved with it. I guess George's involvement. He's obviously going to be an executive producer just because it comes from his mind, and I wonder how involved he'll be. But yeah, just looking forward to some castings. Like you said, I don't think you need to go superstar studded, but maybe they always throw like one or two in there that are recognizable. So
right, and there's no definitive showrunner, so it's just George R.R. Martin, Ira Parker, Ryan Condal, and Vince Gerardis that are being tapped as executive producers. And it feels like whenever they announce a new Game of Thrones series, it's George R.R. Martin's going to produce and write. I don't know, maybe he'll be way more involved in this series than he was with the other ones. That's how they marketed a House of the Dragon, that he was going to be more involved. By the end of the series, it felt like he wasn't involved whatsoever, even though he is credited as a co-creator. We have to touch on it. Winds of Winter. I love George R. R. Martin. He is such a nice guy. Every time he posts about what he's doing in his life, I'm like, you're such a sweet man, and I'd still be so privileged one day to just sit down and talk to you, not even about Game of Thrones, but just about anything, because he's such a nerd. He's got an encyclopedic knowledge of pop culture and things that we love. But man, it's just, it's not hypocritical, but maybe that's not the right word. It's just frustrating that
it is.
A few years back, it was, I don't want any involvement with anything until The Winds of Winter comes out. And he turned his back on that as soon as he had the opportunity to work on a new show. And as I said, if he's more involved in this one than he was with the House of Dragon show, it's just going to be frustrating.
It's always forgotten, and I forget it too sometimes. It's like, Winds of Winter isn't the last book.
I know. Well, we've given up on that one entirely. That's the thing. We're just holding out that maybe we'll get the second to last book, which feels further and further away the more we move forward in time, which is just unreal. I mean, the last update we got was 3/4 of the way done, right? So that still puts it at 2 to 3 years. So we've made so many fucking predictions. You would have to think by at least 2026.
Do we get Batman 2 or Winds of Winter first?
Oh, shit. Batman 2 is supposed to be 2026 or 2025.
2025, yeah.
Batman 2. Yeah, Batman 2, without a doubt. 2 years? No way, George is... He's going to get to the end. It's going to take him even longer because he's like, oh, shit, I got to wrap this up. But yeah, just to touch on the Winds of Winter, because that's always the elephant of the room whenever we talk about Game of Thrones or new Game of Thrones projects that he will be involved in. All right, before we move on to the next topic, I just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor for today's episode, and that would be ExpressVPN. Going online without ExpressVPN is like using your smartphone without a protective case. Most of the time, you'll probably be fine, but all it takes is one accidental drop onto solid concrete to make you wish you had protected yourself. Contrary to popular belief, it doesn't take that much technical knowledge to hack someone's phone. So whenever you connect to an unencrypted network in cafes, hotels, airports, your online data is not secured. Any idiot hacker on the same network can gain access to your sensitive information like passwords, banking information, and more. That's where ExpressVPN comes in. ExpressVPN creates a secure, encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet. Hackers can't steal your sensitive information. It would take the world's greatest hacker, equipped with the world's greatest hacking tools, 1 billion years to get past ExpressVPN's encryption. So unless you plan on living for 1,000,001 years, ExpressVPN is all the security you'll need to keep your information safe. What I love most about ExpressVPN is that it works on all devices: phones, laptops, tablets, desktops, and more. It's as easy as clicking a button and features a very user-friendly interface, making it easy for non-tech-savvy people to easily connect and feel secure online. Personal online data is very valuable for hackers, so I make sure to keep my VPN on running seamlessly in the background. It's a no-hassle feature for ultimate protection on the web. So don't wait. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/nerdsoup. That's expressvpn.com/nerdsoup, and you can get an extra 3 months free. That's expressvpn.com/nerdsoup. Yeah, I really hope you've been using a VPN, because I know you were having a little trouble with men in black suits ready to ship you off to Guantanamo.
Yeah, apparently, like if I can't buy things on the black market, why is it posted?
Yeah, why doesn't Biden do something about that? Take it down.
But I might have Alexander the Great sword, so.
Wow, holy shit.
Yeah.
Does it come with the rock, or it was just the sword? I'm trying to figure out if you're the fucking king of England.
That's how it works?
Yeah, that's right. It was Excalibur. He pulled it out, and he became king.
No, I just got the sword.
You know what, man? King Arthur, Guy Ritchie's King Arthur, I think we were too hard on it.
You think so?
Yeah, I think back fondly on that viewing experience. It was so ridiculous. Like when he first gets the sword and he starts moving really fast, that was fun.
It was fun. Yeah, I'll give you fun.
Jude Law was hamming it up. Love Jude Law.
He was wearing, like, Armani Exchange.
I mean, he wanted to be fresh to death, man. Come on.
It reminded me of, like, Euron when he shows up and he's just wearing regular clothes.
Maybe you should appreciate other people's drip.
I appreciate drip, but, it has to be of the time.
Well, speaking of drip of the time, did you see this trailer for The Penguin? He was looking straight out of, not of the time, but maybe the late 90s. Everyone's saying, oh, they just made The Penguin Tony Soprano of Gotham. This is awesome.
That's fair, yeah. It's such a... Like, the Penguin has been not respected. I don't know how to put it. Obviously, everyone remembers the Danny DeVito Penguin, which they took, like, the name pretty literally.
Yeah, and he is awesome, but it is funny to look back on it. It's campy.
Yeah, and even the comic book and video game adaptations of the Penguin, he's kind of goofy. He has the British accent. He's remarkably small and round. But I feel like I don't think Colin Farrell was the first one. I forget who plays him in the Gotham series, but I really enjoy that adaptation or that version of the Penguin as well. Like someone who could be feared and obviously when I'm playing Arkham or reading a comic book or watching an animated movie.
That was Robin Lord Taylor in Gotham.
It's like I don't really care. But, like, it's fun to think about, like, well, how did this man gain so much respect and have a crew with him? Like, who's signing up to be one of the Penguin's men? But I think, like, especially with Colin Farrell's portrayal, it's like, yeah, this is someone who can, like, he's a boss in fucking Gotham.
Right, and he still fits the character, the visual descriptions of the character from the comic book, that he's a short, pudgy guy who kind of looks like a penguin. And it's obviously a bit more realistic, but he also looks like a real gangster that you would see in a gangster movie. As I said, everyone's calling him Tony Soprano of Gotham. So, and for a long time in this podcast, I always said that I wanted to reimagine the Penguin as a hardened British gangster, someone like a Sean Bean or another actor who's just a commanding presence on screen. And the Penguin nickname was in jest. It was ironic.
Yeah, does he embrace the Penguin?
I feel like there may have been a line that he doesn't like being called the Penguin, or maybe one way or the other. But people do refer to him as Penguin, so maybe it's something he knows about, and we'll see it in the series. He doesn't like that. You call him Penguin, he shoots you or some shit. But Colin Farrell he doesn't have a lot of screen time, but he was so damn memorable as that character. Some of the funniest scenes come from him, and it wasn't them winking and nodding at the audience. It was just a funny portrayal. And the physicality of the role, obviously he's got the fat suit and the makeup. You still have to, there's got to be a human being behind that. And I think he really did capture the essence of this new age Penguin that can still pay homage to his comic book roots, but bringing it into the real world. And the Batman did such a great job of mixing fantasy with realism because it is so gritty. It's a film noir. It's a detective story. But Batman's a fucking superhuman. Nobody can step to that guy, and it's so unrealistic, but it works perfectly because that's the Batman from the comics. He is one of the most powerful superheroes, even though he doesn't have superpowers, and it's because he's just James Bond and a ninja and Sherlock Holmes all wrapped in one. So I love the way they promoted this to the next chapter in the Batman saga. So you know that whatever happens in this series is going to be addressed in the next movie. Maybe it doesn't lead directly into the next film, but the events here will affect where Gotham is in the Batman Part 2.
Right.
So that's going to be fun, and I think there's a chance that we won't see Batman in this, but we will see Robert Pattinson. Maybe not in a huge role, maybe it's just a cameo, maybe he doesn't even speak. But it would be fun if they gave us shades of his budding Bruce Wayne, where he's becoming a bit more, not flamboyant, but social, and putting himself out there, realizing the advantage that he has with this Bruce Wayne persona.
We'll talk about this movie later, but like how they treated MJ in Air. Maybe something like that. Maybe not as like apparent, but like through newspaper clippings or TV interviews, or
right.
Like he's never like out and about like in the street, but like he's just a presence in Gotham as Bruce Wayne. Even like radio things. Oh, billionaire Bruce Wayne stepped out today.
Yeah, I think that could be a fun way to do it. Or even if they, there was a deleted scene from The Dark Knight circulating on Twitter of Bruce Wayne. They're catching up with him. He's out on a date, and they ask him a question about the events that are unfolding. And he gives a quick comment acting like Bruce Wayne. Oh, I didn't even know about this, blah, blah, blah type of thing. Like if, the Penguin, a series of murders are being attributed to the Penguin. We caught up with Bruce Wayne to get his reaction. Like, oh, I don't pay attention to that stuff. We got an election, blah, blah, blah. A throwaway cameo type of thing would be fun. But I think that there's a lot of potential in this series. I've always wanted to see Batman on the small screen. This isn't that, but I'll take what I can get. So I think the Batman universe on the... I haven't watched a fucking episode of Gotham, but the Batman universe on the small screen is something I'm really excited to see.
Yeah.
Not done by the CW, done by HBO.
Gotham was Fox.
Gotham was Fox?
Yeah.
Why are you a big Gotham guy? Because you watched the first season?
Yeah, It was fun.
You don't get to claim Gotham. You don't have Gotham under your belt.
I got enough of it.
All right, well, let's move on to the next one. Let's talk a little Harry Potter. This is a story that we talked about. Was that on the last podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, it feels like so long ago because we were so hard on J.K. Rowling and we got some backlash, but that's okay. Now it's official. Harry Potter is coming to the small screen. It was announced during this shareholders meeting, and it's going to adapt each book over the course of 10 years. But it's funny, a lot of people were pointing this out, and you pointed it out before we were recording. When they made the announcement on Twitter, they were using the old Harry Potter logo, the old Harry Potter theme,
on Hogwarts
from the original movies. So if it's a reboot, shouldn't there be new music and a new logo? And a new Hogwarts.
It's honestly like one of the more
shameless ways to reboot a franchise or to announce your reboot.
Right, like at least if you're going to redo it and put some new people in charge and kind of tell the whole story and adapt it chapter for chapter, like have some creativity and create something new. You're already doing something new, so why not? Like, what are we just going to have a different cast within the same fucking world that you built 10 years ago? It doesn't make sense.
Right, yeah. The plan is to reboot all of the characters, start them young, and then we'll watch them grow. I think another problem they're going to run into is Harry Potter's a big story. That's why they were adapted into movies. So you would have a movie budget to bring all of these fantastical things to life. If you're going to plan to do that over 10 years on television, that's impossible. the amount of time that it's going to take when you get to like book 3 or book 4. So this idea that we're going to grow up with the characters, by season 5 and season 6, these characters are going to be like in their mid-20s, depending on the timelines. And maybe I'm exaggerating a bit, but I don't think that that's possible. So,
well, I think in there, like, what helps
well,
them...
I guess 7 books in 10 years. So I guess they are accounting for some time.
Right. What helps, I think, is the first 2. I don't think you really need to... It's not until like 3, I feel like, is when we get to see some like really cool shit, especially on the VFX side of things. And obviously, like, when these first 2 movies were made, technology wasn't nearly what it is today, and they were still like hold up pretty well. So it's like, yeah, I like in the beginning they can get away with it, but once it gets to 3, 4, 5, like that's when you really need to make sure everything looks great and you have enough time to produce these.
Yeah, I haven't read those books in maybe 15 years. So if the idea is to more faithfully adapt those first few novels and all the novels, it looks like there's going to be more stuff in book 1 and book 2 that you have to account for, right? If that's how you're trying to sell it, it's going to be a bit more faithful.
And I hope they don't like make it gritty right away.
But I think that's something they're going to do as well, where it's not going to be the tonal shift where the first 2 movies, people say, maybe they're not that good, but they're kids' movies. And you get that nostalgia, especially people who grew up with them. But now I think that from the jump, it's going to be a bit darker. And I think you're going to see that with Harry Potter's character. There was somebody commented on our Instagram post, I can't remember her name, but she was saying, I want to see the Harry Potter who's more complex, who's a bit meaner, who's a bit more sarcastic. It's almost like the way that they wrote Jon Snow in the TV show versus Jon Snow in the books. I think that's a very fair comparison with the differences between Harry in the books and Harry in the movies. So I think that if you want to go that route, it does need to be from the jump, where there's not going to be that tonal switch. I actually like that, because the whole book, the whole series, has so many horror elements, as do most great fantasy epics.
But I think part of like, especially when they start and how young they are, like the tonal shifts can make sense and be gradual enough where it's getting more mature as your characters are getting more mature. Call it the Philosopher's Stone too. What do you think the hardest role is going to be for someone to
step into those shoes?
Yeah.
Snape.
Snape?
I think so. Alan Rickman, dude. Like Dumbledore,
it's
can
already
get
happened.
So yeah, Dumbledore's already happened. But I think he's such a fun character to play, where somebody can step into the role of Snape. It could be a dead giveaway that they're doing a caricature.
Well, Voldemort.
Oh, that's easy too, dude. You just gotta put a bunch of makeup on somebody.
But it's still made it Voldemort.
Ray Fiennes, terrific. Yeah, but I think that's a role that a lot of actors can have fun with. It's like the Joker. Get a great actor, he could play the Joker. But with Snape, people are going to say Adam Driver. I don't know if he's going to take a supporting role on the Harry Potter 10-year-long series.
No.
But I think that's a character that people may say, oh, that's not Snape.
Or anyone can return?
Maybe you get... Well, none of the kids are going to return because they have their problems with JK. They've been very outspoken, so I don't think that she is going to do them any favors.
No,
and I don't think
adults.
What'd you say?
They're adults now.
Bring them back in adult roles.
Yeah.
Some of the professors.
Maybe. But then you still gotta... It's like differentiate yourself, but like from the promotion, you're clearly not. Who's gonna be the easiest to replace? Or who will be an upgrade? Where would you want to be upgraded? I think Malfoy. That could be such a better character in a show than in the movie.
See, I was going to say Malfoy would be a difficult one because I feel like Tom Felton, when you think of Malfoy, you think of him.
Yeah, but when you watch those movies, he's not, like, the character isn't written well, and he's not particularly strong in that role.
Well, that's also just a symptom of the writing of the entire series. It's so black and white. I'm an evil guy. I'm a good guy.
And let's be honest, Ron kind of sucks, too.
That's another character that people wanted. They want to give Ron... more to do.
I need someone who's convincing that Hermione will pick him over fucking Crumb.
Over Crumb and over Harry, right? A lot of people say Harry and Hermione had the better chemistry. I should reread them before this comes out so I can be the person who's complaining about all the changes.
What's Marissa got to say about this? Any updates?
She was sort of indifferent to the news. As I said, she said that 2015 her would have loved this, which a lot of people would disagree with, coming right off of the movies. Oh, we don't need a reboot. We just had a great, successful franchise. But she was so heavy into the books at that time, and it just fits better on television. A little confused about this timeline they have planned out, but it's happening. Harry Potter, less than 15 years from the last movie, it's getting rebooted.
Well,
thank you, Warner Brothers.
Max.
Well, there's
shout out to Max.
Right, that's the difference too, is that the Game of Thrones prequel would be an HBO series. This is going to be on Max.
It's so fucking stupid, man.
So it won't air on HBO Sundays? It's just going to be streaming? I wonder if that's how they'll start to do it. Because it was the same thing with...
But why not? Like, this is going to be a really, really big show.
Yeah, they have to put this on HBO.
Yeah.
Sundays at 9. Is Succession and Barry about to start airing back-to-back? New Barry's going to come on after Succession on Sunday?
Damn.
It's about to be a fucking crazy hour and a half every
Dude,
Sunday.
HBO, like, it's been said to death, but, like, just decades of building up this prestigious brand in HBO. Like, an HBO show's coming out, you know it's going to be good. I have faith in HBO. Banger after banger, and you just remove that from all future projects. Obviously, we know, and, like, it's not going to be really a difference. It's just you're going to click a different app to watch what you want to watch, but it's ridiculous.
We'll see how it pays off. Yeah, and before we move on to some of the Disney news that we have to talk about, I wanted to mention quick the first look that we got at the Sympathizer, the Park Chan-wook limited series that we've talked about several times on this podcast over the last few months. We got those set photos of Robert Downey Jr., and we knew coming into this that he would be playing different characters, so he's in his Eddie Murphy era. But I thought this first trailer looked fantastic, and apparently there are a lot of Vietnamese legends in this series, so that's cool to get that sort of representation for the Vietnamese community, and also seeing Robert Downey Jr. in a project that looks promising, because for so many years, besides the Marvel stuff, he really hasn't been in anything too memorable. He's tried with The Judge to get that Oscar nomination, didn't really work out for him. Worked out for Robert Duvall. Then he was in the Dr. Dolittle remake, which was apparently one of the worst fever dreams ever put to screen. So this is one of my most anticipated things of the year. Show, movie, game. This is near the top of my list.
No, yeah, it looks good. Spy thriller, like not knowing what side somebody's on, or it makes for just interesting television. And obviously, all the creatives behind it, it looks very promising. HBO original. It's going to be appearing on Max. I don't know what that means.
So stupid.
It's an interesting. I mean, we've beaten World War II to death. Like, I think with Vietnam, there's a lot you can get into. Especially the fact that it's a war that was probably made no sense. There's no reason to fight it for the most part, and just everything that kind of surrounding that period of history, especially in America with the hippie movement and things of that nature. So I think seeing it from maybe another perspective as well, different insights into that whole time period. I think I'm looking forward to it but like just as much as like some of the other series announced, especially like a limited series, a nice tight limited series. They always just hit.
Yeah, and coming off of Decision to Leave, I'm really excited for Park Chan-wook to maybe get some more exposure here, because Decision to Leave was totally shut out by the Oscars. So maybe this is a show that will really hit for audiences, not just Western audiences, but people everywhere. So, and he's one of the best filmmakers working today, so it's so fun to see a guy of that stature come down to TV. Not come down, but transition to television. And he talked about working with Robert Downey Jr., that Robert Downey Jr. just kept improvising, and he was such a fan of what he was doing that he just kept it in.
I mean, all those get-ups, I think, lend to just like kind of having fun with it, right?
Right, yeah, exactly. So I think that's going to be fun. And as I said, Park Chan-wook's such a great filmmaker, so it's going to be awesome to see. All right, now let's transition over to a galaxy far, far away. We had 3 new Star Wars movies announced, which means we have 3 movies that are never going to get made.
Based on Vietnam. Isn't that what George Lucas said?
I think he did.
Yeah.
But as I said, 3 new Star Wars movies.
We weren't the Empire, were we?
Coming from Dave Filoni, James Mangold, and the showrunner of Miss Marvel, Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. So the James Mangold movie... Once again, these movies probably aren't going to be made, but the James Mangold movie is focusing on the first Force users, subsequently the first Jedi. So Old Republic, we've been clamoring for Knights of the Old Republic. This is going to be the very, very beginning. The second movie from Dave Filoni is going to tie together all of the shows that have been airing on Disney+. So The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka. There are a few more coming, right? I think The Bad Batch would be a part of that group as well. So Kathleen Kennedy said this movie maybe will be released in 2026, 2027, and it would come after
Winds of Winter,
the Daisy Ridley-led Star Wars movie that is not Episode 10, but it takes place 15 years after the rise of Skywalker, and it's about Rey rebuilding the Jedi Order. So we have 2 movies about the origins of the Jedi Order, one in the very, very beginning and one in the present day, but all of it taking place a long time ago. And then the movie that's going to tie together all the shows and give us the cursed moment between the original Trinity, Han, Luke, and Leia, all de-aged, because that's 100% where that is leading. as I keep saying, how many fucking Star Wars movies have been announced over the years? A lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing on people's minds, well, not the first thing, but what happened to Taika Waititi's Star Wars movie? Kathleen Kennedy said he's still working on it and he's still writing it and we're going to leave him alone and let him do his own thing. That's never happening. Rian Johnson's Star Wars movie, probably not going to happen. I don't know. Which one of these three excites you the most?
I think James...
Better question, which one pisses you off the most? Okay.
Mandoverse. That pisses me off. It doesn't piss me off, but could do without it. Especially since I'm not over the Mandalorian, but it's lost its appeal to me.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people...
They should just do a culmination from like season 2 of Book of Boba Fett.
Well, this definitely has big box office potential. It's easy to sell people on Mando and Grogu are going to be in a movie together. And now the new theory is that Grogu is going to be a student of Rey's.
I'm getting tired of Grogu.
Because he'd be around the same age that Yoda was when he became a Jedi Master.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we can see the Yoda with the dreadlocks. I think that would be fun. And he's half Jedi, half Mandalorian, right? That's Rey. She's got the yellow lightsaber. She's a gray Jedi. So now, they've eased up on their rules and restrictions. You can have sex. You can be a Mandalorian. But you still have to be vaccinated. Cut that out.
I think Mangold's is my most anticipated because it's just so removed. The way they described it as a biblical epic, I think that's just awesome. And he's like one of the better filmmakers like working. I feel like I'm interested, like I don't know like how much of a Star Wars fan he is or like his connection to Star Wars, but I think
he strikes me as love the first three growing up type of era.
So, like, if he can kind of put his own spin and kind of get out of the shadow of everything concerning the main storyline of Star Wars, do your own thing, operate, like, what she said about Taika Waititi, we're leaving him alone and let him do his thing. Do that for him. Do that for Mangold.
You kind of sounded like you had a Boston accent when you said Star Wars.
Fucking Star Wars.
Ben Affleck and Matt Damon cast in the roles of the first Jedi and first Sith.
But yeah, that's the one I'm most excited for. The Rey one, I don't mind that. That's 100% going to be Star Wars Episode 10, by the way.
But also...
It's like they're going to change, like they're going to make it that.
It gives me headaches talking about Star Wars. Yeah. What are we, 8 years from The Force Awakens, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if Teddy were here, he would have made this point. You're going to give us the movie we wanted with The Force Awakens 8 years later? It just feels like almost like Monday morning quarterbacking, where you can't make up for what happened on Sunday. That's history now. So it's like, this is what you guys initially wanted, right? So come on back. It's good. And then what's going to happen at the end of the movie? Something goes terribly wrong and the Jedi Order's destroyed again. It's just like, I'm so tired of it. I wanted this a decade ago. And it's the same thing with the origins of the Jedi. Doesn't it take away some of the mysticism and the mythical nature of the story? Like when Obi-Wan talks to Luke about for thousands of years the Jedi's kept the peace. That's all you need. And in your own mind, you're thinking, man, how did that work? What was the bureaucracy like? What was the day-to-day life of a Jedi? Who was the first Jedi? I don't know, but it makes it feel ancient. Like it's so far removed that, yeah, maybe it did happen. But now when you pull back that curtain, it takes away all the mysticism. It takes away all of the mystery and the intrigue. So it needs to be incredible. I don't know if they have that in them. And James Mangold is a great filmmaker. I've really loved his last couple of movies, especially the 2 Wolverine movies that he gave us. I don't know how much freedom they're going to give him. As you said, you want Mangold to be out on his own, doing his own thing. But I would much rather, 200 years into the Old Republic, just Jedi, Sith, Game of Thrones. I don't need the origins. It's going to be so... there's so many ways that this can go wrong.
I'll predict right now that it's going to be... People are going to love that one. The Rey one, I think, will be relatively good. And the Filoni one might suck.
Well, Dave Filoni, he's been a darling of Star Wars fans for so long.
Because he knows...
So for a lot of people, this is a long time coming.
He knows ball. Like, we'll give him that. George Lucas knows balls too. Doesn't make him a good filmmaker.
Knows balls.
Yeah.
Well, I think George Lucas, his problem was he didn't delegate enough. And then you saw the rust kind of come off by the time you got to Revenge of the Sith. Oh, okay. George Lucas, his arm is looking better. Deep postseason run. And then he sold Star Wars to Disney. Yeah, with the Mandalorian, God, I definitely want to review it as a whole, so eventually I'm going to have to watch it. But there is nothing inside of me that's telling me to watch that show. Other than the fact that we may have to review it. So maybe Ahsoka comes out and we got the news that Lars Mikkelsen will return as Thrawn, which is another casting that a lot of Star Wars fans wanted. Maybe Ahsoka comes out and it's incredible and that reignites my passion for the Mandoverse. And people saying, we need to find a name for the Mandoverse. It's called Star Wars. What the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, we'll see.
We're in 3 movies from 3 completely different time periods, which I feel like even with Game of Thrones, they're kind of jumping around a little bit.
And I love the character of Rey. I think by the time you get to The Rise of Skywalker, she's been completely butchered. Mm-hmm. But I love Daisy Ridley in the role. I thought she brought so much humanity to the spectacle that was the return to Star Wars, where she was able to ground everything that was going on with her character's journey of trying to discover who she is and where she belongs in this story. And like I said, they totally butchered it. But I'm excited to see because she's gotten the short end of the stick when it comes to getting other roles and other projects. So I'm glad that she's going to be getting her bag again.
It's going to be it has to be episode 10. Here's why. Rey Skywalker. It's a Skywalker-led movie.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Surrounding the creation of a new Jedi Order. And presumably there's going to be an opposition of fucking Siths. What is that? Does that remind you of anything? Fucking Star Wars. What are you going to call it? Rey?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you start... Okay, so you had the first 9 movies. Maybe this starts from the beginning. Maybe this is episode 1 of a new saga. Which makes...
Let's make it easy for me.
Which is so tiring at this point. It's going to be the de facto episode 10. But you could say, hey, that was book number 1. Now we're on to book number 2. He's the first chapter. He's the first episode. You know what? I'm going to bet that that's how this opens. Star Wars episode 1... Chapter 10, but episode 1 of the new book.
Rey?
And people are saying, well, you know, Poe is still out there. Finn's got the Force. Finn's a Jedi.
Episode 10. This is episode 10.
R2-D2 and C-3PO, they got to be in it, right?
No matter what they call it, it's episode 10.
Yeah, I think naturally because I'm still so in love with Daisy Ridley that's the one I'm most interested in. Mm-hmm. And I'd be excited to see her and Grogu. I think that could be fun. If they find a cool way to wrap up the Mando story in that movie and it's like a super emotional ending. Grogu was running around with Pedro Pascal, now he's with Rey. That's cool. That's weird. That he's, you know, that he ages so slowly that he can exist in both of these worlds.
Or he could die.
All right, let's move on to the Marvels trailer. So this was the new Captain Marvel movie that's coming out. Technically, it is a sequel to the first Captain Marvel, but it's going to be featuring Monica Rambeau and Kamala Khan from Mrs. Marvel, and they're all teaming up, and they're working with Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury because he's buddies with Captain Marvel. I didn't watch this trailer. Did you?
Yeah, I did.
What'd you think?
It was fine. It looked fun. I think they're like a cool pairing, and I think if you watched Miss Marvel, like the introduction of that character and seeing her interact with Brie Larson and
that one still shot, she was looking.
Brie Larson
when she had the tank top on.
Yeah,
she was looking ripped.
It's so weird. Like I don't know
why men hate her.
Yeah.
I know, come on, man.
Dude, it's so like...
It's so undeserved.
Like, it's the most disliked trailer. And it's not like a groundbreaking trailer.
God.
It's not like the best trailer I've ever seen, but it's not, by far, not the worst. But the most disliked on YouTube. All the fucking man babies shit in their pants, making YouTube videos about it. I'm so glad that we're not in that...
That we're not that?
Yeah. How do these people, like live? It doesn't make sense to me. Like, if...
I imagine they live... with sweat stains under their armpits.
Yeah. It's the most pathetic thing, I think, going around in, like, film and television, like,
society.
Social media.
Let's be honest, culture. Though everything's woke. You don't like something that has a woman or a minority in it, that's woke.
I saw woke. 2 takes.
The Mario movie?
Woke Mario. And then it was another one that said, I liked Mario because it wasn't woke.
Yeah, it was anti-woke.
So I don't know what to believe.
Well, I think it's because it's doing so well.
I don't think it was woke enough.
If it crashed at the box office, it would have been go woke, go broke. And now that it's doing well, it's like, look, Mario's anti-woke.
Look, do what you want, but like the constant complaining and harassment and just like it's been so fucking long and they're still shitting their pants over Brie Larson. And in their defense, she did say some really terrible things about maybe journalism should feature some people, more diversity to cover her movies. I'm surprised she's not in jail. So, like, in their defense, for her to be walking around free and making movies, still having a career, yeah, maybe they have some right to be upset.
Somebody's going to cut this out without context and be like, Aaron hates Brie Larson.
No, it's just...
No, that's... also, it makes me not want to criticize Brie Larson because I don't think that she was the right casting for this role. I don't think she's a bad actress, but I think it's similar to Zachary Levi. And once again, I'm not a movie star, but when I look at them, they don't have that movie star aura where there's just something special about them that you can't put your finger on it. You can't express it through words. Like Will Smith back in the 90s. You don't even think about it. Sure. Movie star.
Yeah.
Or,
well, I think with Brie Larson, especially in this trailer, and that's like a criticism a lot of those people used to criticize her performance, where she was very stoic. And I don't think it's something where, the old thing, oh, like women like smile more. That old like version of like sexism or whatever. But I think there is something to Brie Larson as an actress. Like, and in this trailer, she's having like fun. And I think that kind of resonates with the character and the situation that she's in. They're having fun, I'm having fun. It's something where I think tonally the adjustment with this movie, introducing her with these other characters, will let her be more of herself. Because in real life, she seems just like a person who likes to have fun and do her own thing.
Right, and I think sometimes directors and writers need to realize this character works better acting like this. Right. So even though we came into it thinking that she needs to be more like a Superman type character, no, she needs to be a bit more fun-loving. She needs to have a bit of Shazam in her, and that's where she could thrive. With Zachary Levi, I think they go too far in that direction, and it takes me out of it. It just becomes annoying. So yeah, maybe I will like her more. That's something that they used to say about Emilia Clarke with Daenerys, is that in real life, she's so bubbly, she's so vibrant. Why not let her act more like that? Why not let some of that humanity shine through in her performance as Daenerys? Because I think a lot of the times the writing did sort of hold her back. So yeah, maybe she will not necessarily surprise me, but maybe I'll like her performance more in the sequel, since it seems like the character's a bit more laid back.
Well, I think especially like Emilia Clarke, like when you see her like in real life and she's so expressive, like I think as an actor, like be like, all right, don't be, because Daenerys, we want to portray her in this way, like to think something you do subconsciously and try to negate it while thinking, like it's a tough balancing act.
Oh yeah,
but when you're just allowed to be like more free and fun, I think it definitely helps the performance. That's like when we always say like, well, was this a good performance? Because Henry Cavill was just being Henry Cavill, or I just use him as an example. But any actor, like people will be like, well, it wasn't that great a performance because they were kind of just being themselves. But that's why that character was so enjoyable. But yes, I mean, decent trailer. I just can't... Look, if you're going to go make 20 YouTube videos on Brie Larson because of something she said 10 years ago, whatever. It's just annoying. And I don't want to see this cycle again.
All right, let's move on to fan questions. We haven't taken fan questions in a few weeks now, so I'm excited for this.
That's for the fan to decide.
Yay! People, you call up to the show, you better be ready. That's what you're supposed to do. Sitting there arguing and you're trying to spell your name and all of this other stuff. It's not your show, it's my show. I'm giving you the opportunity to speak your mind. Don't call up here unless you got something to say.
Okay, this question here, it's on brand for the podcast. This is from Ludwig. What would you guys like to see from the Game of Thrones universe? Well, we talked about what we are going to see, but what would we like to see? My big show has always been old Valyria political drama, but I've sort of cooled off of that from my point about Aegon the Conqueror show and my point about the first Force user. It does take away some of the mystique, where it's cool that there was this thriving society so advanced beyond any society that we see in the modern Game of Thrones era. It just makes your imagination go wild. What did they have? Internet? Did they have irrigation? How advanced truly were they? In what ways was the magic incorporated to their societal advancements?
Yeah.
I honestly don't... you know what I want to see out of the Game of Thrones universe? I want to see the fucking Winds of Winter.
Yeah.
That's what I want, man. Because that's my last hope in terms of getting a satisfying ending for A Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah. And at this point,
I'm itching for that book, dude. Yeah. But if I had to choose, I think the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is the way to go. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, Blackfire Rebellion stuff is always cool. Maybe
right.
Some stuff pre-Targaryens, but yeah, it's hard not to go. It wins. That's the only thing that's new.
Right, yeah, shit that we don't know about. This question here from Giselle. Who's coming out of the East and West in the NBA?
Bucks, Lakers.
Oh, God. What is this, 2020? No, it will be Knicks Lakers, Knicks in 7, LeBron wins Finals MVP. Best of both worlds. Knicks get that championship. LeBron's got 5 Finals MVPs, 4 rings. Are you kidding me? I'd be running with that all day. No, realistically, I'm going out on a limb here for the West because I think the West is so wide open. And I hope Denver does prove me wrong because I would like to see Jokic go on a run. Same thing in the East. I hope Embiid goes on a run. But what I hope is different from what I think is going to happen. I think it's going to be the Warriors again out of the West.
That's so annoying.
I think it's going to be typical, didn't care about the regular season. You always see it with these former championship teams. It was the Lakers with Kobe and Shaq. They never gave a shit about the regular season. They'd flip the switch. They'd go 15-1 in the fucking playoffs. Celtics, same thing. Like, oh, they're old, they're down and out, and then all of a sudden they take the Heat to 7 games. I think we're going to see it with the Warriors. It's going to be that heart of the champion bullshit where all of a sudden they're good on defense and all of a sudden they're good on the road because they didn't care in the regular season and now they do. And Steph gets that 5th ring where at the very least Magic and Steph becomes a more interesting conversation because a lot of people have him over Magic already. I don't think he can win 8 championships. I don't think he's better than Magic, but for a lot of people it becomes more interesting. And in the East, I think this is the easier pick. I think it's going to be Milwaukee.
I think the Bucks beat the Warriors and I think the Celtics beat the Warriors.
You want that to happen.
No, I don't think. Obviously, Steph is still great, but I think
you don't think they have that same juice.
I don't think Clay has the same juice. I don't think Draymond has the same juice.
Well, for the West, do you think they could come out?
Yeah, I think Lakers and Warriors are interesting because they are the 6th and 7th seeds. But the same thing you said, where like you have LeBron, you have AD, you have a chance to win any series. You have Steph, you have a chance to win any series. But I think it is closer to the Warriors. Yeah, maybe they were dogging it in the regular season, but I don't think they're separated far enough from even Sacramento. And then they would have to play who? The Lakers?
Lakers or the Grizz, yeah.
And then go through Denver again. Like, could they beat
Phoenix?
Could they beat those teams? Yes, but I think each team could beat them as well.
Yeah, I'm reluctant to pick Phoenix because Chris Paul is not the same Chris Paul. They haven't had a lot of time together. That's also why I'm reluctant to pick the Lakers. If the Lakers had that team from the beginning of the year, that's a good roster. That's definitely a championship contender. I don't know about favorite. But chemistry matters, dude. And those guys, they've barely played any games together. I know that they've been good since the trade deadline, but they've had an easy schedule. LeBron hasn't been there, and that shit matters, dude. Clay, Draymond, and Steph, they know where each one of them is going to be on the court. They know the spots that they like. They have that unspoken chemistry that takes years to develop. And as I said, you can put that together in the beginning of the season and get to a championship team by the end of the season, but the Lakers have had no time together, dude. And it's the same thing with Phoenix. They haven't had enough time.
Yeah.
And Kevin Durant, where everyone's like, oh, you plug him into any team and he fits.
I think with Phoenix more so than the Lakers because AD and LeBron, like, they've done it together already.
You still have AD and LeBron. You have some leftovers from last year. And the pieces that they brought in are truly role players. But it's tough, man. Memphis has firepower. So I think that could be a fun series. That series either goes 7 or Memphis in 5. But my pick is Bucks over Warriors in 6, which means that it's going to be Sixers, Denver. This question here from Julianne. Logan versus Olenna Tyrell. Who's coming out on top and who gives the best fuck-offs?
I think
Tywin was very much her Logan.
Yeah, and Logan, I don't think he's a missionary guy, so I think Olenna's like definitely will be coming on top. She'll control the pace, and he'll just kind of lay back there.
I could see that, yeah. With Olenna, she's such an alpha that you have no choice but to submit.
Damn, because like...
Well, I think that Olenna...
She has an army. Logan has money. She has money too.
Sure, in a head-to-head in that sense, but in terms of like an intellectual battle, if they were pit up against each other, and I think you did see it a lot of times with Tywin. Very similar character to Logan. Yeah. They're just diabolical, not witty, not clever in the sense of trying to get the last word or scheming and planning. They just went straight for the gut.
They would respect each other,
They would. Yeah, they would have a lot of respect for each other.
I think Logan, because at a certain point, Tywin cares too much about, like, he might not care about Cersei, doesn't give a shit about Tyrion. He does care about Jaime, and he cares about the Lannister name and their legacy. I think Logan has a lot of that too, but I think he just hates all his kids. And I think legacy he built is enough for him at points to an extent. So I feel like he would be even more ruthless. Whereas I feel like Tywin might hold on to something or hold back just because maybe he puts Jaime in danger or wants the future of House Lannister to succeed or something like that.
Well, I do wonder, though, if Logan would think more like Tywin if he was in Tywin's position, because with Logan, I guess maybe he believes he'll be remembered forever because of the age in which we live.
Right.
Where he's a titan. It's not about, the Roys, he could choose his kids to be his successors, but 10 years goes by and they sell the company to some other company.
Well, Roy
the name doesn't matter as much as...
Waystar does. Or what he built.
Right, it's always going to be his thing, whereas Tywin is thinking, nobody's going to give a shit about who was the Lannister lord at this period of time, but they'll know that the Lannisters are still around, so that's my job. So I do wonder if Logan would be more Tywin-esque in that situation and vice versa. Because I do think Logan loves his kids, he just loves himself the most. And he just doesn't see any of them as worthy successors.
Who are the Roy kids as the Lannisters?
Well, Roman, Tyrion, Shiv, Cersei, by default. Maybe even Kendall, Cersei. And Shiv's kind of Jaime, where she's the reluctant one to be a part of things. And Logan's like, hey, why don't you come in? And then realizes, oh, she's a dope too. Yeah, I'm going to go Kendall, Cersei, Shiv, Jaime.
Well, Kendall's like book Cersei.
Right, where everything in his head he thinks is...
Like, he's fucking killing it, but, like, it just doesn't work out for him.
Yeah, it's tougher in the show.
Shiv's Cersei, Kendall's books are Cersei.
That's fair. Yeah, and Roman, definitely Tyrion.
Yeah.
This question here from Matt Sampson. Which NBA player is under the most pressure to get a ring in these playoffs?
Durant.
Ring. Is it? Yeah, I guess maybe Durant.
Well, he has two, but, like, he needs another one. For a lot of people. I don't think he does, but it's also weird the way he was dealt, like, mid-season. Like, it doesn't feel like it's his team. We haven't seen him play, so he's basically like a mercenary coming in, winning a chip, and then what? Doesn't have that feels like he did it with the Nets, or if he started in the beginning of the season with the team.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny, dude, the way that we value rings.
It's stupid,
depending on these things. But I do think if he goes on like a dominant playoff run and wills them to a championship, that would be awesome.
Right.
I would actually love to see that, because I think a Kevin Durant ring does bring him into top 10, top 5 territory, because the eye test for Kevin Durant says he's top 5.
Yeah.
Maybe the accolades don't, and the way he's gone about winning his championships, but that would be cool. Yeah, Jokic. But Jokic, so many people are doubting him that I don't even think it's pressure. Nobody respects the Nuggets as a 1 seed. I disrespected them. Nobody's picking them to go to the finals. It's Warriors, Lakers, and the Suns are everybody's picks, and maybe the Grizzlies. So I don't think there's any pressure for Jokic, but I think it would be awesome if he pulled it through and then Nuggets fans can say, hey, we've been hyping this guy up for good reason.
He's a guy that only needs one.
He only needs one. It's very similar to Dirk.
Yeah.
And I think Embiid is in the same boat. I think there's more pressure on Embiid only because he hasn't been as far as Jokic, and it feels like his year.
Yeah.
He's going to win MVP.
I feel like Tatum has time before that starts to become a narrative. Giannis
I think the Celtics
has
have pressure as an organization, because with all the shit coming out of with Jaylen Brown, that he's felt so disrespected by the way they've dangled him in trade talks. So they may be on the clock just as an organization. This question here from the Dude Meister, from Ye and Michael Jordan's docs on Netflix. Who else would you love to see a docuseries of? Well, I know they're planning one on the Kobe Shaq Lakers. I'm really excited for that.
Cool.
Yeah. A documentary in that style. I would love to see somebody do Michael Jackson that way, where it's the good and the bad. Because we've had documentaries celebrating him. We've had documentaries tackling all of the, allegations and the criminal shit.
Yeah.
He's a criminal, probably.
Smooth. Oh.
Yeah, there you go. No, not too smooth.
I mean, to certain people, he's not like he's... What do you mean? What allegations?
Oh, yeah, dude, that's my Diana. I love her to death, but she will never back down from that. The innocence of Michael Jackson. There are just some people that are never going to cancel that guy. Maybe not Michael Jackson. I think a Messi documentary would be good, especially for people who didn't get the chance to watch him play. Soccer keeps growing in popularity, but there's so many people that know Messi but don't really know his story. I think that could be fascinating.
Yeah. You know what's cool? Brittany Griner, actually, I think she's gonna... Is she writing a book?
Oh, that's cool. You want a documentary on that? That's dark.
Well, it's in, like, what's an interesting story? I don't know. This fucking WNBA super basketball star gets arrested and thrown in a fucking Russian prison camp for all this time. That's interesting.
It's like a video essay. A documentary?
I want to see what happened. I want to know what happened.
Fair enough.
Oh, Messi, look how good he is. Where's the controversy? Where's the dead dad?
What the fuck? Brittany Griner's dad is dead?
Jordan's.
Oh. That was the Jordan documentary. Was look how good Jordan was, and it was awesome.
Yeah. Why am I watching? What's the pull?
Because you want to see how he became to be regarded as the greatest soccer player of all time. What were some of his great feats? Can you name anything that Messi's done besides won a World Cup? No, you don't know shit about Messi, so you'll learn some stuff.
I want some La Ligas, right?
Yeah, he won a couple of La Ligas.
This will never happen, but like a steroid era.
Oh, that would be fun.
Late 90s, but like they're like, yeah, we did steroids.
Right, where we get those interviews from all the guys, like the real, like where the steroids were coming from, who injected who type of thing. Yeah, that could be really fun.
This Aaron Judge did steroids. They should let him.
I would love to see that, yeah, just to see how many he would hit, truly.
I feel like they're not that bad for you anymore.
No, they've worked out the kinks.
Yeah.
Yeah, according to my steroid guy. Teddy. Another NBA question. Who is your MVP? From Giselle. It's Giannis. He's not going to win it.
I don't know. The NBA MVP is the most frustrating thing.
It's so stupid. That's one thing soccer does so much better. It's like the best player is going to win the Ballon d'Or. And it's always got to be some narrative of this guy's won too many, or this it's his team and this and blah, blah, blah. It's Giannis.
Like baseball, like they can't go the NBA route. The standard should be, unless anybody has a season like Aaron Judge, Ohtani's going to win every fucking year.
Right.
Because he is the best player in the sport.
You needed an anomaly of a season from Aaron Judge, and people still wanted to give it to Ohtani.
Mm-hmm. That's got to be the standard.
It should be. It should be, dude, because Jordan should have 8 or 9, and that would be cool to be like, yo, you know Jordan won 9 fucking MVPs? Maybe I would consider him the GOAT. But same thing with LeBron.
Yeah.
There was 8 or 9 years where he definitely should have been MVP. It's just stupid. And that's not taking anything away from Jokic or Embiid, but the Bucks have the best record and they have the best player. That was the criteria for how many years. Now we have to change it. Embiid's great. He's incredible. Giannis is the MVP. This question here from Diego. What's more euphoric, being called a bitch by Jesse Pinkman or being told to fuck off by Logan Roy? I'd much rather get told to fuck off by Logan Roy. That's what Brian Cox says. Everybody runs up on him in the street and asks him.
But I think Logan, like his fuck offs, like I feel like you can catch a bitch from Jesse. Like anyone can catch a bitch from Jesse.
Yeah, you need to earn the Logan fuck off. You need to piss him off.
And you got to be in the room. That's cool. You can run into Jesse's like a fucking, McDonald's. Just call you a bitch.
You just cut me, bitch?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Jesse Pinkman. Oh, my God. Big fan. No, that's a good point. This question here from PhotoFox64. What's a live-action movie that they should animate since it's all going the other way?
They should do like Lord of the Rings. Like, they did it already. Like, if this was announced, the new Lord of the Rings movies, and they're doing like animated movies, I think that would be cool.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting way to do it, without a doubt. I think that a remake of The Matrix animated would be awesome.
Yeah, that'd
because
be sick.
The Matrix is often praised for being the first live-action anime. It's so cool without being really goofy, and a lot of those adaptations of animated projects
What if they did Vertigo?
Just doesn't work.
Animated Vertigo. Does that make you like the remake better?
No, actually, that would probably make me hate it more. Animated Virgo. Memento animated.
That's been in my mind all fucking. When we were making fun of the woke Super Mario Brothers. It's like, what's the funniest movie to be claimed as woke? And people leaving. It's like, oh, I can't believe they made Oppenheimer woke. I've been laughing at that.
Yeah, they're gonna make up like some scientists who didn't exist. Like, no, this is the actual equation. Thank you, woman.
It's the YouTube thumbnail. Oppenheimer woke.
All right, last question here from New York State of Mind. Were you guys fans of the Ocean movies with Clooney and Pitt? If so, which was your favorite?
Ocean's 11 is a fucking awesome, great movie.
Yeah, and Ocean's 12 really isn't that bad either. It's not as good as Ocean's 11.
13,
Yeah, no, they're all good. I think it's actually a solid,
they're all
fun
like,
trilogy.
Even the bad ones are like still fun and good to watch. I liked Ocean's 8. Did not hate that.
Ocean's 8, I'll disagree with you there. Do not like Ocean's 8. Too woke.
Oh, I forgot about Yeah, I forgot about that. There was women in that, right?
No, yeah, I think the entire cast.
Oh,
yeah,
God, no way.
8 women.
What?
9, actually, including Anne Hathaway. She may have been a part of the 8, I don't know. No, talk about a movie with no conflict. You always watch a heist movie and it's like, wouldn't it be nice if it just went well? And that's Ocean's 8. It's like everything just goes perfectly.
Well, like, I don't think it's any worse than the Ocean's 13, maybe. It has the same, like,
and
problems
I'm not that passionate about it. I just didn't like it.
Well, they're not 11, but they're still fun heist movies. And I think there's just a certain like floor. Like when you're having fun watching a movie, like I'm not going to think it's bad or a piece of shit. Like, oh, if I had fun and it's interesting, and at the end of the day, if it all comes together and it's cool in the heist and keeps you entertained, then I think that's what it kind of set out for. But 11 is like what happens when you like elevate all those aspects and just have a good ass movie with great ass characters surrounding everything.
All right, guys, that does it for this episode of the Nerd Soup Podcast. Thank you so much for listening, for joining. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, put on notifications.
What gets me like a little gives me a little chuckle when I log into HBO Max. The different accounts, I ruin it.
Yeah,
it's an RSVP.
It would be RSVP. Yeah, I've noticed that too.
But I come in with a little A.
Yeah, RASVP.
What does RSVP stand for? Maybe we can reserve RSVP. It's a good song.
I think you're thinking of respect. RSVP.
RSVP.
Easy as 1, 2, 3. I think it doesn't mean anything what the letters represent, actually.
That's annoying.
Oh, it means please reply.
No, it doesn't. Please reply would be PR.
Once again, it doesn't. It comes from the French.
Ugh.
Respondes sur vos plats.
I'm glad I ruined it then.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week. What do you hate, the French?
Always beefing with the French.
Motherfucker thinks he's British.
Wow, that was probably our best review yet. Hey guys, Aaron the Nerd Soup Monkey here with a brief shameless plug before we end the video. Do you ever feel like you don't have an adequate amount of nerd soup in your life? Like you're going to bed hungry and yearning for the nonsensical yet entertaining nutrients our podcasts provide? Well, we've come up with the perfect solution. The Nerd Soup Fan Question Podcasts, exclusively available to our Patreon supporters. You can sign up now by visiting patreon.com/nerdsoup, and for the price of only $1 per month, you'll receive exclusive access to our weekly podcast where we answer your questions that don't make it to the main show. And while you're there, you can check out the other rewards we offer to our patrons, like stickers, mugs, t-shirts, behind-the-scenes footage, and appearing in the credits at the end of our videos. And that's exactly what we're going to do right now. Roll the names of the nerds who make Nerd Soup possible. The reason why the crypto crash didn't send our lives spiraling down a black hole of no return. Alright, I'll stop talking so you can listen to this jazzy-ass music while checking if Bo spelt your name wrong in the credits.